Thank you, Quentin, for the introduction. Thank you for having me. So in the next couple of minutes, I would like to present the concept for an exhibition, an upcoming exhibition at Depot Boijmans Van Beuningen, which I am making with my colleague Hanna Leijen, also present here today, who is head of the museum's documentation center and as such the one who most often and most intensely comes into contact with issues of provenance in our institution. So our exhibition has the provisional working title of The Biography of an Object, of an artwork, and was scheduled to open later this year, but due to major cutback in the museum's subsidies, the exhibition was unfortunately reshuffled, or the program was reshuffled, and our project was delayed. We are very happy to share with you, nonetheless, the plan, and we warmly invite everyone to come and see the result in Rotterdam in April 2026. So the idea behind it grew out of us jointly noticing a seemingly increasing containment of what exactly provenance research is or can be, and the profound impact this has on public opinion. Indeed, gradually, there seems to be an equivalence between museum provenance research and looted art, mainly in the context of the Second World War and colonial contexts. As a result, provenance research increasingly seems to become a handmaiden of restitution issues, and the research questions posed are akin to a judicial inquiry into the guilt or innocence of museums. A striking recent example of this is the open letter published last month in Kunsthaus, in which it is stated that, quote, provenance research is primarily concerned with translocations in four contexts of injustice: cultural property seized as a result of Nazi persecution, cultural property relocated as a result of the Second World War, cultural property seized in the Soviet occupation zone and the German Democratic Republic, as well as cultural and collection items from colonial contexts and human remains, end of quote. To be clear, we wholeheartedly subscribe to the general claim made by the letter, defending the importance of provenance research against right-wing attempts to get rid of it in Germany. However, we regret the emphatic equivocation between provenance research and injustice, and as well as the chronological limitation of the field of research. It goes without saying that investigating the whereabouts and ownership of artworks between 1933 and 1945 is a moral obligation for museums. And in the quest for justice, Museum Boijmans Van Beuningen has extensively screened the provenances of a significant portion of its collection for the period in question. A case in point is this beautiful landscape by Jacob van Geel, which was part of the collection bequeathed to the museum by the Jewish art historian, collector and dealer Vitale Bloch in 1976. Now, it was known that the painting was bought in 1931 at the auction of the collection of Cornelis Hofstede de Groot by the Jewish artist and collector Joseph Henri Goschalk. He was deported to 3 consecutive concentration camps in 1943, but he survived and later claimed that he had lost several paintings during the war. But as the landscape by Van Geel was not mentioned explicitly, the museum approached the Goschalk heirs and filed a request with the restitution committee for binding advice. Their research revealed that Bloch already owned the painting in 1940, or at least by 1940 at the latest, and the conclusion was therefore rather clear that a restitution was not in order. Yet, even though this process unearthed important new documentation, or new information, it is striking that the known provenance in our TMS record does not reach beyond 1929. In other words, we haven't got a single clue of the painting's whereabouts for over 3 centuries. This is, of course, a pity, which is made clear by the example of this ivory relief. It was in the collection, or it was bought by Daniel George van Beuningen from art dealer Jacques Goudsticker in 1939, and although it is not known when or how the latter acquired the work, the relief appears in the forced auction of the trading stock of the Jewish dealer Drey in Munich in June 1936. In consultation with the heirs representative, the museum submitted the ivory relief for binding advice to the restitutions committee in 2020, which three years later advised that the museum was bound to restitute the ivory relief to the heirs. This was done in April 2024. Now, with the evidence at hand and under Dutch policy, the restitution request was indeed not complicated at first glance. However, the provenance research revealed that the ivory had previously been in the part of the famous Stroganov collection in Rome. Count Grigory Sergeyevich Stroganov died in 1910, but his heirs were murdered in 1920 by the Bolsheviks, and only one adult with 2 minor children survived the slaughter. She escaped to Rome and soon after began to sell parts of the collection, and the ivory was part of, or was one of these items. So in other words, only 15 years before the Drey sale, the artwork was part of yet another sale that in all probability was equally involuntarily, but which was discarded in the restitution case. Now, questions such as these are a poignant reminder of the importance of deep provenance research beyond World War II and serve as a starting point for our exhibition. Focusing on the layered histories of objects in our own collection and revealing the changing meanings and values this generates over time, the aim of our presentation is to heighten public awareness of the full biographies of artworks. And in the remaining time, I will present a couple of cases that might be of interest for you today. And before leaving the context of the Second World War, I would like to start with another lesser-known side of that very conflict, because of course we are all familiar with Nazi attacks against Entartete Kunst, but less known is that similar purgings also affected collections of old masters, and perhaps most notably, or most importantly so in Munich, to the extent that Konrad Renger once said, Berlin lost artworks due to the war, Munich lost them due to the director. And the director in question was Ernst Buchner, who headed the Bavarian state collections from 1933 onwards. In an attempt, by his own saying, to increase the quality of the collection of early German paintings, he disposed of no less than 73 Netherlandish paintings he judged nicht pinakotheekswürdig. In his pursuit, he not only followed his own interests and expertise, but he had also had Hitler's personal support. Because foreign currency proved to be difficult to procure after 1933, in practice these acquisitions mostly consisted of trades with a network of art dealers. And perhaps the most notorious of these is the 1938 acquisition of a portrait, then attributed to Matthias Grunewald himself, in exchange for 3 works. Raphael's Bindo Altoviti, now in Washington, A Virgin and Child by Rubens, now in Antwerp, and Douw's Quack, now in Rotterdam. And I think I can speak for my colleagues in Washington and Antwerp when I say that these paintings are now absolute gems in our respective collections. But the fate of the so-called Grunewald is less fortunate, as it was soon de-attributed and dispatched to Aschaffenburg. So for those who go to Aschaffenburg on Wednesday, say hi to this unfortunate man. This leads me to the question of the changing critical fortunes which deep provenance research can reveal, and which are crucial to understanding the history of art. Douw's Quack is now generally regarded as his masterpiece, very probably already during his lifetime, and still a century after his death. It was described as such in the illustrated catalogue of the Electoral Gallery in Düsseldorf. Buchner clearly thought otherwise, as he did of another Netherlandish painting that ended up in Rotterdam, Adriaan van der Werf's Diana and Callisto. A year after the accessioning Douw's Quack, he described it as aesthetically insignificant and traded it against 2 anonymous late 15th century paintings from Ulm, quote, whose return to their homeland is to be welcomed. He considered this an extremely favorable deal, but the fact is that these 2 paintings have been kept in storage ever since. Van der Werf himself, however, related this in his autobiography that, quote, all those who know his works have judged this piece to be the best of all by his hand, end of quote. It indeed contains the quintessence of Van der Werf's art and has been acquired at great cost by the Elector Palatine, Johan Wilhelm II, who succeeded in outbidding several other interested parties. Eventually, in some cases, tracing the provenance can lead to the original commissioner of the work or recipient of the artwork in question, which in turn can say a lot about the intentions of the artist or patron. Van der Werf's Diana and Callisto, for instance, was a gift to his wife, Margaretha Rees, whose features he used for Diana, the goddess of chastity. So before turning into a widely acclaimed masterpiece, it therefore first and foremost was an intimate gift celebrating the marital virtues of the painter's spouse. But this was clearly lost in time, which is perhaps most dramatically demonstrated by the ongoing restoration of the panel. This is not only revealing the original splendor of the painting, hidden behind layers of dirt and discolored varnish, but also some very specific damages inflicted at some point, which materially violated the depicted goddess's chastity. And I don't know if it's clear, but so the genitals of both female figures were scratched out at some point. However much these acts are to be regretted, such material traces are an integral part of the biography of an artwork and need to be evoked when recounting it. In Douw's case, the identity of the commissioner is less clear, although Erik Jan Sluiter has plausibly suggested that it might have been Franciscus Silvius, an internationally famous professor of medicine, who possessed no less than 11 works by Douw. In the inventory drawn up after the doctor's death, a, quote, capitally large piece by Douw, no subject mentioned unfortunately, is located in the Groot Salet of his house, where he would receive his visitors. Now, the idea that a renowned doctor commissioned a monumental painting showing a medical charlatan as his comic antipode to entertain his guests would say a lot about the degree of sérieux we should attach to 17th century genre paintings, but unfortunately, Sluiter's hypothesis is only based on circumstantial evidence and therefore must remain speculation until future provenance research might perhaps confirm or refute this hypothesis. The greatest challenge we will face in the coming months, I think, will be the development of an educational part to it, but I think it's already clear that we will focus on audience participation, allowing visitors to dive into the multi-layered histories of our objects by putting all sorts of research materials at their disposal, and by allowing them to look at the backsides of the paintings on show. Thus, they will find that the Douw is painted on one large plank of cedar wood that came from the New World, so arguably the first layer in the object's biography, while the worn labels on it are poetic reminders of a bygone stay in Munich centuries later. And on the Van der Werf, they will see how Van Beuningen proudly placed his own wax seal above the two applied by Van der Werf himself, sporting his coat of arms on one and his motto above a palette with paintbrushes on the other. And in order to find out more about their precise function and meaning, it is also with a friendly request for audience participation that I would like to end this talk. To all of you who have a Van der Werf in their collections, please have a look at the back and let me know if you find similar seals. Thank you for your attention.